But hey, we've got our next two guests who are here. Carl Dimailig. How are you, Carl?
Oh, it's the best day of the year so far. How you doing, guy?
It is. It's the only day of the year so far.
That's why it's the best and the worst. Hopefully it will be the worst for the year.
Welcome to the PR Connections Marathon Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
And Carl, you are a part of an organization that I am also a part of called the Cause Marketing Chamber of Commerce. And we've developed a podcast that you've been working with me on for quite a while. Will you share with the audience what the Business of Giving is all about?
Yes, the Business of Giving is the name of a radio show that Guy and I host once every second Saturday of the month. No, not Saturday. I do that every first. Did it wrong again. Every second Sunday morning at 7:30 a.m. UNLV, which is 91.5 if you're in Las Vegas, or you can go to their online website to find the radio channel. And that is where we interview local business owners and charitable organization directors to find out who they are, what they're doing, and how they help both as business owners and nonprofit organizers, how they both support the community.
And what got you involved in the cause space, Carl?
It's hard to pinpoint any one thing. I just recall as a kid being involved in things that weren't always for my betterment, that I could have seen it as a child. Obviously, doing philanthropy is good for a child, but growing up when I would do fundraising, I think everyone has done this as a kid. They sell chocolates door to door to fundraise for their school. I was only incentivized because I got a free chocolate smelling Frisbee. But that's when I realized, I don't have to do something for me. I don't have to do something of tangible benefit, but just knowing that someone else is benefiting, I indirectly benefit, was just kind of part of how I grew up. And then as I got older, I got involved with other fundraising and fraternities with also their side of philanthropy. So it's just always been there in my life in the background. And when something good came along, I just tagged along and joined the mission, joined the cause.
And the Cause Marketing Chamber of Commerce is all about bringing businesses and nonprofit organizations together. From a business perspective, what are some of the benefits that you found because of your philanthropy?
It's another avenue of having a conversation with brand new people that I don't quite know how to connect with. Usually in public events, it's always, what's your name? What do you do? If those things don't work, and if you don't want it to look like you're flirting with them, you can't ask them what they do for fun. If they like long walks on the beach, then you switch to, what causes do you care about? Are you involved with any animal shelters, homeless things? And people usually light up when you ask them about that. The ones that don't light up, there's like a sadness behind the smile. So they still light up in their own way, but it's another avenue of conversation to bridge a gap between, a stranger that I don't want to be as strange anymore.
Yes, absolutely. Causes in business are just such an exciting opportunity. And us at the Chamber, we're really, really focused on helping people who are in business to understand, and others, by the way. We have a huge volunteerism aspect of the Cause Marketing Chamber as well. And so that's what the Business of Giving podcast is all about. And I'm going to remove myself, Carl, and I'll bring Don in and let you host the Business of Giving. Enjoy.
All right. Don, can you see and hear me okay?
I can hear you. Thank you for having me.
Excellent. So it looks like we are going to begin 8 minutes early. Are you ready?
I am ready.
Did you stretch? Did you get your warm beverage? Because my voice is starting to go. All right. Well, then let's just get right into it. This is one of the many programs on this marathon. My name is Carl Dimailig, and I'll be hosting a segment which is part of the Business of Giving radio / podcast. It's a radio show that we host. We, as in Guy Dawson and I, host every second Sunday morning at 7:30 a.m. at UNLV Radio Show 91.5. And if you want to join on the internet to catch it, I don't know the website, but if you went to the UNLV radio show Rebel, UNLV 91.5, search that and you'll find us, and you can listen in live on our second Sunday morning at 7:30 a.m. This is not obviously UNLV. This is in our own homes. And today I have the pleasure of interviewing Dawn Fizzler. She is a Las Vegas local, and she's also an agent. So if it doesn't violate any international secrecy treaties or top secret clearances, what kind of agent are you?
I'm an insurance agent that specializes in business insurance, and go alma mater UNLV. They are my alma mater, and graduated from there. But mostly we do insurance for small businesses and individuals. And we try to connect people with what they don't know they need, because they don't know what they don't know, because they just don't know. And we educate them.
Yeah, because there are so many. When I used to watch TV, there's commercials, there's a whole bunch of different companies, there's billboards, and I wouldn't know where to start. I find it overwhelming. And is that one of the reasons why you have this agent title?
Yeah, I have my agent title. I'm an LUTCF. I have a couple of designations under my wings. And you're right. When you see all the glitz on TV, it is name recognition. However, when you're making that phone call, you're acting as your own agent, which can be very deadly, because if you don't know what you're supposed to ask, you won't get what you really need.
That sounds like the equivalent of going to traffic court and trying to defend myself. Is this something you'd recommend everyone do for those who do need insurance, that if they don't know the ropes, have someone else who knows how to do it?
Yeah, because most people try to compare what they call a declaration page, and it nothing more than a Reader's Digest version of what your policy is. If you ask any good attorney, any personal injury attorney, any attorney, and ask them directly, is this good? They're going to say, let me see the whole policy. That's why there's 127 pages behind the deck page, because the deck page only gives you a summary. They can look the same, but not drive the same. My analogy is, it has 4 tires, a wheel, and it's red. Did I just describe a pickup truck, a Ferrari, or did I give you a Fiat?
I like that word you used, Fiat. Actually, I don't like that word, but nice. I like the play on words there.
Exactly. And that's where most people are not understanding, that there is a lot more to giving a description. Is it an 8-cylinder or 4-cylinder? I just describe pretty much any vehicle, including a semi-truck or a home tractor, and they're not all the same. They're not all functioning the same. They don't do the same thing.
Right, because the numbers are just the exchange side, but what it means is in the other 100 pages, right?
Exactly. And most people don't even sit down and read the whole packet that comes, because it is written in legalese or insuranceese. But more importantly, there's endorsements that are added on or not on. And each one of those endorsements can make a massive difference to your life when a house burns down.
Could you define endorsement?
Endorsement, they're riders. Most people hear the word, oh, it's a blanket rider. Well, not necessarily, because even blanket riders have some caveats to it, like how much coverage for somebody that has jewelry in their house. They really don't know till they look at it.
So could you define a rider?
A rider is adding on or taking off. It would be no different than me adding on coverage to a basic policy. Think of it as a sundae with just vanilla. And each endorsement is sprinkling on something, or an endorsement can remove something. Let's say you're allergic to nuts and you need to remove the nuts from your sundae because you can't tolerate them. So what happens is those endorsements, riders, they're one and the same, can add or detract from a policy.
Perfect. Okay. So if someone has a basic cookie cut policy
Yep,
and they need it modified, tailored, altered, they would use endorsements slash riders to get exactly what they need.
exactly. I have had people that have had one of a kind pieces of artwork that are clients that have Italian marble sculptures from some of the classics. I have a gentleman with 184 paintings. Two have been at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and one is a Judith Schechter for any of those who know that particular artist. One of her paintings was in Harry Potter.
Wow. So that sounds like, yeah, obviously not a run of the mill insurance policy for collectibles. Because, wow, okay. And let's see. So it sounds like already you're hinting at the fact that you can't price shop insurance.
Price shopping is one thing, but it shouldn't be everything. Remember, you're buying coverage. If I told you for $10,000 you can get a vehicle, I didn't tell you whether it was the Fiat or if it was the Lamborghini or the Mercedes. It's just a different value. And if people value shop, that's a big difference. Because oftentimes, like with car insurance, to go from property damage of 50,000 to 100 is a grand total of $20 every 6 months to double your coverage.
Wow.
And $20 every 6 months is what? 3 Starbucks? 2 Starbucks? I mean, when you look at it from a materialistic standpoint, the difference in what you're getting is a much higher value, much better quality. We all can buy a cheap laptop for $125, and that would be nothing more than a Chromebook. But what if you need to have a whole lot more power and you need a terabyte? It's a computer, but it's not the same kind of computer.
Right. I like how you immediately switched it from price shop to value because value doesn't have price as the forefront. It's reflected in the price, but are you getting what you want? Now let's work on the price versus, oh, you only got this much. It's hard to build up to. It's hard to, I guess I'm trying to say it sounds like it's more difficult to build up to value at a dollar amount versus what do you value? And then someone has to make the money up to get it, like $20 every 6 months. It's like, you know what? I could squeeze out $20 every 6 months.
That's exactly the right, Carl. That's exactly the right analogy. Because I have people that have a ton of artwork that don't own a single firearm. I have a half a dozen people that have firearms and they don't own a single piece of art. I have people that have jewelry or collectibles. They are different things. They are different animals. I got people working from home. They have to have the right endorsement. Let's say they do taxes from home. They need to have the right endorsement on the policy to cover when that client comes over to pick up their tax return and they fall in the house. Were they there for the tax return or were they there as a friend coming over for a barbecue?
Ooh, yeah, they're not a friend anymore. And they're not coming over for any more barbecues. If that's the case.
Exactly. And those are some of people, oh, that's not going to happen. I've had cars drive through houses. I have had decks collapse with people on them. I have had homes still smoldering when I show up. So oftentimes, try to get an 800 number to show up when you have firemen tromping through your house. It's in smoke. You got your cat in a cat carrier and you are homeless. Try getting anyone to show up. We do. That's the difference we make.
Yeah, I hear a lot of, and I'm guilty of this too. I complain about having to have insurance, and that's not really the truth. I don't like having to pay for it, but I love having it. Oh my God. It's like, okay, I'm so glad I paid the extra $20 to get my double coverage.
Exactly.
You hope you never need it, but when you need it, you hope you got it.
Exactly.
Now, how would you get through to someone who has to choose? And I don't know if this is actually a real situation. I hope it's not. Like a brand new married couple that just got their, I guess, first apartment, expecting a child. someone just got laid off and they had to choose, I guess, some coverage or no coverage. And I guess this really comes down to it depends.
No, actually, I have actually dealt with this. I had somebody last year this time call me up and say, I have no food on my shelf. My cupboards are bare. Do I need to pay my car insurance or can I get food? And I said, don't worry about food. I'm going down to a food bank for you. I've ended up picking up 4 or 5 boxes of food for her just to get her by. I said, pay the car insurance because the DMV will cause you to have more cost long term. We changed their coverage to minimum. I said, we can deal with everything else, but once they make your car so the registration bounces, now you're looking at another $1,000 on top of the insurance, plus an SR22, plus my staff and I told my staff, hey, I'm running down to the food bank right now. I called a friend, picked up 4 or 5 boxes of food and delivered it to her house this time last year.
This has got to be the best example for shop local that I've ever heard. Because that person is dealing with someone on a person-to-person basis, not a big box. Oh, customer number 47,000. You know them by name, you know where they live, and you know where to get food for them at a local, whoever, doesn't matter. You got food for them. And that's not something agent number 412 was going to do for customer number 47,000.
And we got her a job.
Wow.
I ended up finding somebody down at Goodwill that was looking for administrative assistant. I called her. I dropped off the food. She's crying. I was crying. And we got her. I said, this lady needs an administrative assistant right now. Call her. So I handed her my phone. So she made the phone call, had the interview the next day, and landed a job the following day. And she had a car to go to work.
So not only shop local, shop Don Fizzler.
We do our best.
So it sounds like you go above and beyond. And if that's your best, it sounds like you need to one-up your game. I'm out of prime rib, Don. Could you...
Well, there are some cows up in, southern Utah. Maybe they'd like to walk into your freezer.
Oh, yeah. Just as long as they don't crash through and, cause a fire.
That would be considered on an auto claim. That's a comprehensive claim. And on a house claim, if that actually happened, would also be a comprehensive. It would be a claim.
Oh,
wild animals. Yeah.
Oh, so that's not necessarily a rider.
No, that's going to be covered under your auto insurance as a wild animal. And it is a comprehensive claim, not a collision claim.
What if it's not exactly wild? It's already finished its party years and it's settled down. Do they define wild as feral or?
Feral is actually the same thing. I actually had a client that was in the middle of the driving on the highway, and I got a call from the claims department. It's kind of funny. It says here he hit a bobcat. You mean one of the bobcats, like the digging thing? And I said, no, bobcat like kitty box. The rabbit cleared the car and he was doing 50. And the bobcat did not clear the front end of his car. And he had to roll over. He actually was able to walk away from it.
Wow.
But it was a pretty bad accident. But they thought he ran into a trailer with a bobcat on the back. He said,
wow.
No. Meow.
Grr. Wow. So we sort of touched on it already, and I want to get into it. You mentioned Goodwill already and the local food pantry. You've been in Vegas for a very long time. How have you participated in uplifting and building up this community that you don't mind sharing without bragging?
Well, when I was a kid, there was something called the walk-a-thon here in town. You walk 20 miles and you'd end up getting people to sponsor you per mile. And so every year I did the Jerry Lewis walk-a-thon, the MDA. And that started off very young with me. I think probably was 12 or 13 years old. Wow. Then I moved on to the 4-H and used to sell advertising for their programs and met some family men, if people are aware of Las Vegas history, met some family men and very nice to me. I was only 12 or 14. And then moved on. And some of the stuff, 100 Women Who Care, I've been involved with. we find local 501c3s that are in need of funding, and we help fund them. We did actually Homes for Nevada Youth. That's one of those programs that's kind of near and dear to my heart. They have a boys' house and a girls' house. Most of these kids come from very bad backgrounds, or they've been in foster care. Most have drug issues, and they promote getting your GED or your high school diploma for both the boys' house and girls' house. It's intensive therapy to get them on the straight and narrow. And through help with 100 Women Who Care, we were able, they only have 18 kids in each house and 2 computers to do their schoolwork. So I nominated them for 100 Women Who Care, and they were chosen. They got $5,800, and I showed them a program where they could get new computers. So they got 10 computers in each house. So they could either get their GED or their high school diploma. And most of the kids' graduation rates went through the roof because each kid could have their own computer and didn't have to check it out.
Yeah, wow. That's like, I can imagine, but I don't want to imagine how badly this community would turn out if that didn't happen. But the fact
We've got some success stories, A gal was pregnant, had a kid while she was in it, and, got her GED. She walked for graduation just before her child was born.
Wow.
So it makes a difference in the community, one person at a time.
Oh, it does. And the stories that they will tell, and they're going to be, I would just assume they're going to be way more giving than someone who didn't have to go through as many struggles. I'm guessing on that, but it just reminds me of some videos where, or even old parable, I don't even know if that's the right word, but stories I heard growing up where if it hurts someone more to donate when they don't have much, which makes it mean more when someone has billions and they give away 50 cents, it's like, meaning, sure, okay, the meaning is individual, but it's more touching to the giver as well as the receiver if it hurts more. So
No, that makes perfect sense, Carl. Okay. In fact, the young lady who gave birth, my mom heard about it. She went out and bought her, onesies for the baby, diaper wipes, pretty much. She goes, I know what it was like not to have anything when my first child came along. She says, so she got her probably $150 worth of baby items, bottles and bottle brushes. And anybody that has a child knows how much that extra cost is. And Carl, you're right. When you give more, and my mom's a pensioner. And so, she went out and she goes, I know what it's like. And somebody that can help me, 60 something odd years ago, I'm paying it forward. So it doesn't have paying it forward does not have a shelf life. It doesn't expire.
Yeah, it reminds me of a different parable. I'm sure it's in every culture out there, but it's something along the lines of the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The next best time is right now.
Exactly. And the thing is, my mom planted a seed with somebody, and, maybe somewhere down the line after this young lady gets older and gets more financially stable and she helps somebody else out. That's what giving is all about. It's not about sometimes money. It's about giving of time and caring. Thoughtfulness is what I call it. And being thoughtful about where some other person's perspective sits.
And you've not only been involved with our local community. When I spoke to you, when I first met you, you were involved in some stuff on the other side of the planet. Do you want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah. Both my boys were adopted from Ukraine, so I have a near and dear heart what's going on over there. And some of the unfortunate situation that's happening where over 200,000 children have been missing. Some of the orphanages have been drained. They don't know where the children are. From what we know is they are getting shipped back to Russia. So we're taking an entire generation. The people are warm, friendly. Of course, some of the small town that I was in where my children came from, Poltava, is a very small place. And having 300 kids all of a sudden vanishing out of orphanages and just gone. Where did they go? That's happening in other regions throughout Ukraine. And they will freeze to death with having no power.
So I don't know what's going on too much. I only know what I happen to catch on TV. Do you know any more or better? No better than what's being shown on TV? What's going on?
Lots going on. There is a lot of infrastructures being struck. And most of the orphans in these orphanages, they have either family members that have other issues, drug, alcohol, mental illness. But a lot of times they just can't feed them. So they'll put them into orphanages, sometimes take them back out, put them back in. It's because of the family's financial situation. And as cold as it is over there, when we were there, it was minus 13, minus 15 degrees Celsius, which is very, very cold. You can see your breath in the orphanages. And that is, 3-4 feet of snow outside. Most of the kids are dressed with hand-me-downs that have been sewn 6 different ways from Sunday. It's kind of the Joseph tattered cloak kind of thing. I mean, they have sweaters that are sewn with patches of anything from burlap to canvas.
Wow. So how could, if someone here wanted to participate in helping, is there a way to safely do that?
Yeah, there's a gentleman called Johnny FD. You can find him on YouTube. And he actually has a fund that is funding. It's great that a large place is donating. But this is donating to individuals who are individually going out, feeding pensioners, helping right now there's a person there that her husband is a welder. They're using pieces of tank to make stoves, wood burning stoves, in order so people don't freeze to death, but they have to get the gas. So he's helped funding getting the gas in order to make small stoves that you can heat one room that's a 10 by 10 room and cram all 12 family members into that room to keep warm so they don't freeze to death. So Johnny FD, he has a GoFundMe page that he actually pretty transparent about where the money's going, how it's getting used, what people are using it to buy food, bringing it in behind lines where people are still getting shelled and bombed and coming into small communities. And some of these small communities are like the size of Boulder City. They're small, tiny villages.
Wow. And yeah, you mentioned 300 orphans, and a population that small is really noticeable. I mean, it's not like the big city where 300 people that you've probably never seen, but in Boulder City, if 300 kids were missing, I think everyone would notice that.
And that's just it. They are missing.
Yeah. Man. So I guess let's go back locally. So you mentioned, what is it? 10 women, the 10 mothers.
No, 100 women who care.
Oh, I was off by a little. 100.
100 women who care. We have a quarterly meeting, and you can nominate a business or 501c3. Everything from autism to kids. There was I cannot remember. I wish I could plug them. They were an organization. Most people think of, okay, it's kids. But when you have an autistic kid that all of a sudden ages out of the school district, they lose all their friends. They lose all their sense of community that they have, especially nonverbal kids. How are these parents going to cope with kids that are nonverbal, behavioral issues that prevent them from taking them to a normal park, prevent them from taking them to a normal store, where too much stimulus causes them to behave in such a what we would consider a negative way, but it's the best way that child can cope. So they have programs, but they're very small and they're not funded. For these parents, they have no resources. They help with those resources.
So how would people connect with the 100 Women?
You can find us online, 100 Women Who Care, or they can send me a quick email and I'll get them caught up with the leadership. Just send an email to Dawn at IInsureForYou.com. It's my website. And by doing so, just put down 100 Women Who Care, and we will get you in contact with the leadership for that. It is a 501c3.
So early in COVID, we meaning the Cause Marketing Chamber, had a give back where we gave food to, I think, 400 different families. They lined up outside of Cannery Row, which I was just surprised at the number. But earlier you mentioned that you helped out that client by getting food. Was that through one of our? Was there a particular name of that one?
I happened to go on Facebook. I didn't know what I was doing, but then I ended up finding out that one of my contacts, partially through Cause Marketing, partially through Spark, was actually a pastor who was having a food drive. I told him the situation. He says, "Come by. I'll save you a few boxes." He loaded up the back of my Toyota, and I drove it over to her house. I mean, we're talking like 20 pounds of, probably 80 pounds of food.
Wow.
And, it was enough to get her by. She got a job. We were able to get her a job through Goodwill. So sometimes those things happen.
Yeah, is your Toyota red with 4 tires?
No, it is not red. If it was going to be red, it would be a Porsche 911.
Okay, and hopefully at least one cup holder for your coffee. You'd hate to spill that in that car.
Oh, no, there's no drinks in that car.
So you'd have to have a special rider that says, well, we're not going to insure coffee stains because there will not be coffee in my order.
There will be no coffee. Yes.
Now, I was also curious, for those people who have never gone to a personal agent for their insurance needs, what should they expect when they reach out to you versus when they call a big box 1-800 number?
The 1-800 numbers, there's a couple things that you just need to be cognitive of. And 1-800 numbers, you are acting as your own agent. So knowing the right questions to ask is part of it. So if we have somebody call us and they're a business client and they don't know what to ask because they have no background in it. So it's a doctor asking questions, how many miles are you going to be driving in a year? They normally don't get to ask that question. Is anybody else living with you in your house? Who else is driving the car? Who might drive the car? Is Uncle Tom coming over every other week borrowing your car because he has a side hustle as a landscaper? So all of those questions need to be answered. But more importantly, what you can do to keep your rate down, even in business insurance. A lot of business owners, I ask them the following question, and they will look at you like they have no idea what you're asking. The first question I'll say is, do you have this as a LLC? And what entity do you have? And they won't even know what I'm talking about. LLC, INC, sole proprietorship, because all of those get insured differently.
I'm glad you're getting into this because since the global pandemic, a lot of people have discovered the side hustle, whether they're W-2 employees or entrepreneurs, and they have additional side businesses to assist. Is it treated any differently as a part-time business versus a full-time business? Obviously, locations would matter because it's a building versus home business.
Okay, that has like 6 answers to it, okay. And I'm going to try to give you the abridged version.
Should I narrow my question instead?
Nah, I can answer all of them pretty quick.
Okay.
So if you're working from your home and you have a side hustle, whether you clean windows or do taxes, you need to make sure that you have a rider on the house, an endorsement that covers that exposure for business exposure. If you've got a brick and mortar, or you're going out in the public and you have a brick and mortar, that brick and mortar store is going to have the general liability, and should have an endorsement, a rider that covers you for going out if you're a vendor at some organization. So let's say the Cause Marketing Chamber of Commerce has starting a new business, and you set up a table there. You want to make sure that that liability follows you to that table. You need to ask those questions. But if you call into an 800 number, well, I got general liability. Yeah, but does it cover you if you're a vendor? I don't know. Does it cover you if you cross state lines? I don't know. If you have somebody come over to your house and they trip and fall, is it going to cover you in the home? I don't know. You get 3 or 4 I don't knows. You just don't know because you don't know. So,
and that's why you would have someone send their declaration page and the 100+ pages to you. And then you can tell them this is good or this is insufficient.
Actually, I just recently did that for a bar owner here in town. He has 3 different bars. And so going through it, we were looking at some of the liabilities. And some places have some entertainment. Other ones don't have any entertainment. And not a single one on his whole policy even addressed the entertainment side. Whether it was live music, pool tables, karaoke, they're all looked at differently. Food.
Oh, wow.
So when we got done with him, I said, this is what you've been paying for, but this is what your risks are. And him being very, very savvy and understanding and being in that business for a very long time, he's like, why don't I have coverage? And my answer was, I can't give you an answer. He says, that's why I want a local agent. That was his number one reason. He goes, I want somebody I can call, somebody who will pick up the phone, and somebody that will talk to me in English and not, lawyerese.
Perfect. It's funny, being an insurance agent, this last 30 minutes, I think that was the first time the word risk came up. And that's kind of so that's really the definition of insurance, is offsetting the risk onto another party, which is the carriers you represent or an agent of. So that way I don't have to sit here with $5 million doing nothing, just in case. I have heard a good case financially where, yeah, you could, instead of having insurance, have the cash sitting there ready for a case, but then your cash is just sitting there doing nothing. You might as well pay the extra $20 every 6 months while your money does other work for itself, for you.
Very true, Carl. Very true. And the other thing I wanted to bring up, that you are paying dollar for dollar. Insurance, you are not paying dollar for dollar. You're pooling your money with everybody else in the community in a collaborative effort. So everybody's putting in $10, just like those raffles that win $1,000 or a 50-50 pot. You're putting in your $10, saying, I hope I can walk away and never have an accident. And I'm putting in my $10 saying the same thing. But one of these days, odds are, whether you've caused the accident or I've caused the accident, it happens and my car is damaged or I'm damaged. How am I going to pay for MRI nowadays literally costs you about $2,400 cash. Pay the extra $10, not have to pay $2,400, and do something else with your money.
Mm-hmm. I can tell you that I was a bit shocked when I moved to Las Vegas from California and my insurance tripled before I did anything. It's like, wait a minute. I haven't had time to have an accident yet. It's like, no, but everyone else here has.
That's part of it. But, I've lived here since I've been very little. And Las Vegas is a melting pot. We can actually double when I was a kid, we would double our population. We'd go up 300,000 people due to a convention. Wow. So now you have twice as many cars on the road with people that are driving from wherever they come from. Overseas, New York, Florida, Chicago, California, Massachusetts, it doesn't matter. They all drive from where they come from. And they're in a foreign town.
Right. It's a bunch of craziness out here. It's almost as if there's wild cows driving red 4-tired cars trying to evade bobcats. It's in the middle of the regular road. It's like, just pay attention, put your phone down, drive, please.
That's the thing, put your phone down, drive. I've years and years ago, I actually had somebody that had a phone and blew a red, and unfortunately 2 people perished. And those situations, those phone calls are very difficult to deal with, both the people that perished and the person that caused it. When you're dealing, that's the difference too, because you have people who care about you making that phone call. I've had a rollover accident I had a client that never worked the night shift. Second time he worked the night shift, going back home to Pahrump, had a rollover accident. He called me instead of his wife. And I had my staff call, one of my staff people were calling Highway Patrol because I got it out of him where he was at. And the other one was calling his wife to go meet up with him. And he called me. So I've had to deal with stuff like that. I've had people calling me, screaming and crying as the house is on fire. They got the cat out. And I'm trying to figure out who they are on the phone because they're so upset they can't even tell me their name.
Wow.
So, I end up dealing with people sometimes on their very worst day, and our job is to try to make it, take a deep breath. We're going to get through this. Can I find out who you are? Because sometimes, those phone calls, I'm on the point of contact. I'm that person that is trying to get them. All right, well, you had the accident. I know you've never had one. This is what you have to do by law. Don't admit guilt. Don't say anything. My gal's calling Metro right now. You need to give them this. They need to give you that. Say nothing. Talk to the cop only. If they hit you or you hit them, don't get upset and don't have road rage.
So I believe we're about to wrap up. It is 4:30. And again, this is the best argument to have a local agent on your side who's known you, who's looked you in the eye, knows how you communicate, because Dawn can calm you down if she's your first point of contact, if you're her client, obviously. So yeah, so work. Do you have any closing thoughts, Dawn, how people can reach you, why they should shop Dawn physically?
How to shop Dawn. I have a very simple telephone number. It's 702-798-0888. And it's Dawn at insureforyou.com. If you look up my name, I think I occupy Dawn Fisler, Fisler. We occupy the first 8 pages of Google. So that's all organic. I have not bought that. But you've been able to find us on the web since I think 1994 or 5.
Wow. I'm sorry, this is just a random question. Do you have a logo? And if not, could you have a wild cow driving a car through a barbecue at someone's house?
That's great. I do have a logo, but it's a little bit different. It's actually my alma mater, UNLV's colors, which is rebel red and gray. So it's kind of the way that I had it established is us protecting you. And that's the first thing people see when they see it.
That is a little bit more serious than a cow without a driver's license.
Well, it is Las Vegas. I've insured dancers from all over. And so, you know what? When you grow up here, you have a different sense of, there are people too. And they have kids going to school just like you do.
Yeah.
And it is different. And thank you, Carl, for having me. I appreciate
Of course, while I'm drinking, taking a sip, I mean. I know we ran out of time, but I don't know how to end this. So thank you, Dawn, for being my guest, despite any technical difficulties you had off camera. Glad it worked out, and hopefully this is the last time you have tech issues for the year.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Guy and Carl. I really do appreciate this opportunity. Have yourself a wonderful New Year.
Thank you for sharing your spirit of giving and business with us today, Don. Great insurance information, and as well as the awareness that you shared when you talked about all of your philanthropic endeavors. I mean, that's what the Chamber of Commerce is all about, is really showing people that there's a bigger picture and that there's nothing wrong with being good to your fellow man and profitable at the same time.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah. All right, you guys. So thank you so much for the Business of Giving podcast.